Welcome to another edition of Working with Gen Z. Friends, we've often heard that feedback is the backbone of an organization. It helps you to understand if you have good products, but it also helps you if you're leading a team and what's the progress of the team that's making. In many ways, experts say it's a good tool to create trust and transparency in the system. Above all, feedback, while it's easier said, what are the skills so that you become good at it, right? Everybody gets intellectually what the concept of feedback means, but how do managers really make feedback work for themselves? And when you think about Gen Z, here is a generation which is, the social media generation, and therefore they are perhaps expecting, or what are their expectations when we think about feedback? So we'll try and unpack and understand all the different aspects of feedback. And to help me with that is my guest, Vivek Yatnakar. Vivek, good evening and welcome to the show.
Good evening. Good evening. Thank you, Nikhil, for having me here.
Lovely. So, Vivek, before I dive in, lots of question on a topic which has a lot of curiosity, whether you are a young manager or an experienced manager. This is something we know we've seen or not seen, perhaps where it should be there. But before I start, I'd like you to just maybe tell us a little bit about your story, your background, and the work that you do.
Super. Thank you. So it's mostly professional, right? So I think there are two parts to my life, Nikhil. One has been the professional part of it. So around 30, 31 years in industry now. First half was corporate career, a mix of manufacturing, IT, consulting, project management, a lot of global roles. That I did till 2007. And then I left my corporate career in 2007, and then I dived deep into learning and development. Again, various roles of facilitation, coaching, mentoring. And the last couple of years, I'm working with Mirak as a head curriculum. So I take care of curriculum, all the facilitators, development, recruitment, and all that piece. That's one part of my life. Second part of my life is it's like volunteering with NGOs. So I do a lot of NGO training, doing some work in for slums and other related activities. I think that's the big area. Hobby wise, I'm a magician, so I do love magic trick whenever time permits. And I think all our family, we come from theater background, so that's another piece which keeps me busy. I think that's very briefly about me.
Fantastic. Well, I will have to watch your magic at some point when we meet in person. And I'm also a big
Sure.
fan of theater.
Yeah.
Lovely. So, Vivek, let's get to it. We're talking about feedback. Let's start with the very basics. Oftentimes, maybe there is confusion of, maybe perhaps for those of us who are not from the learning fraternity, and if you're just a new manager, or sometimes could be perhaps people use the words coaching, feedback interchangeably, even things like confrontation. So, what's the distinction, just in simple words? What do we mean by feedback? And if there is a distinction between these two or three other terms that I just mentioned.
Sure, sure. Thank you for that. That's a very good question. Let me start with some different story. I think the feedback word in general, right? When the most of the managers use, there's a tonality saying, let's say I am the manager and you are my team member, and I say, Nikhil, can you come to my cabin? I want to give you feedback. So it's like a loaded word saying, there's something wrong and my manager wants to, talk to me about it. Uh, if you zoom out and if you see the larger perspective, and in any setup, it could be family, it could be NGO in an organization. Let's visualize people working together, right? And let's say you are doing a task. If you're scaling up, there's a more team member, people supporting you. And I think there is a conversation which needs to happen, whether the things are going well, things are not going well, or things could be done better, or someone has a potential and you would want to tell that person saying, hey, you can do more. I think this piece of, if you avoid the word feedback, I think this conversation it relates to, right? And people as well would like to know whatever they're doing, is it what was expected from them? At a personal level, when a son-in-law and a daughter-in-law also would like to know whatever they're doing, is it matching the ritual of their family? Just to make it very simple. So it has to be both. If it's working well, if it's not working well, that's like one piece of it. That's on the transactional level. I think the second piece, which is often missed out in organization, that's where the coaching and mentoring comes in, is about the potential of the person. I think lot many times, and we are if you and me track our journey from the kids, I think our parents have been doing that nicely with us. When we started growing up, right? They said, hey, Nikhil, Vivek, go out and do something. Then we grew better. Then say, okay, why don't you take ownership of that? And I think we got that confidence of doing something extra. I think that, and one word in L&D we use, untapping potential. I think this is where that conversation also saying, hey, Vivek and Nikhil, you can do more of, or you're doing best. So one is a transactional level, and I think second is at the potential level as well. And I'll come to the third part, which is interference. But finally, I think this conversation deals with you untapping their potential. Someone is able to do more as an effect of that feedback. I think that's how I see this.
Okay.
It is not only a negative connotation, but I think it has a larger context, I think, in my view.
Yeah, no, I really like you mentioned it's more a conversation, and I think we'll dive more into it to see that how does that work. But just before we go forward, are we to say feedback means that someone is explicitly talking about something good and bad versus coaching? Because again, a lot of people interchangeably sometimes could be using that. So this coaching, how is that different?
Okay. Okay. It's not like trademark, but there's something I've created as I was doing a lot of programs and designs. And these days I spend a lot of time in designing the interventions, right? So the whole context, Nikhil, is people development, right? The belief is we are perfection in making. Right? Today I think I can do this, but I think there is a lot which I can do, right? And I'm using corporate context for just to make it easy for us. A role of a manager is really untapping the potential of the person. So at regular intervals, he's having a conversation with the person, right? It could be about the task. It could be about teaching something new. It could be about course correction. It could be about motivation, and it could be about something. But the whole context is people development, saying, "Can you do more?" And it's not really from a selfish perspective, saying, "I want to squeeze juice out of you." Not that way, but untapping potential piece. And there are different types of conversation you have, and I think the academicians have put different labels on it, right? And there's a whole spectrum. Yeah. So one spectrum of where you are actually imparting knowledge, you are teaching. That's a simple one. Someone newly joins an organization, you are teaching them, hey, how to handle the hammer and plier, how to ride a bicycle. You're teaching, right? uh, Teaching training, I'm just putting in one compartment. Then there is another skill building part, the communication skill, the listening skill, the interviewing skill. These are the cognitive part. It could be psychomotor, how to operate a vacuum machine, how to operate a drill machine. Yeah. So teaching and training is coming in that part. There's another piece which comes in wherein the young people would like to know, they'll come to you saying, hey, Nikhil, let's say you're running this podcast and they'll say, Nikhil, I also want to start a podcast. How should I do? This is where you are sharing your experience with them. Saying, when I started podcast, this worked for me, this did not work for me. You may want to try that. We call this piece of conversation, we are kind of like guiding them. We call it mentoring.
Right.
Is that okay?
Yeah.
And now there is another piece where people come to you, when there is a fire, people come to you with a problem. And where they are not expecting teaching, training, or mentoring, they just want a direct answer. That piece we call consulting, where you're giving direct answers. Right? And there's another piece when the person is coming to you and that person, you both do not know the answer. Let's say he says, hey, you know what, Nikhil? Let's say I'm your junior and you're my manager. And I say, manager, I don't know. There's something wrong. I'm not motivated these days. I don't know what should I do. And this piece of conversation, which we are exploring in the unknown, that's the classic definition of coaching. But in common language, you see coaching being used by the teaching classes. The IIT coaching, the cricket coaching, the bowl coaching. Those pieces are actually teaching. They are not coaching per se. So coaching parlance, discovering unknown. So in simple words, summarizing, teaching, training, you are good. Guiding is mentoring. Telling the answer is consulting. Discovering together, coaching.
Yeah.
And if it's like some psychological issue and all, you take to therapy, or we say in company, you refer to HR. Don't try to solve this thing. Let me try. Don't do that. If you're not trained in psychotherapy, don't go there. Yeah. Does it help? Does this?
Yeah, no, I think that's fabulous. I really like you added consulting in between as well, and really very clearly distinction: feedback, mentoring, consulting, and coaching. But you're absolutely right. I guess I didn't think about it that coaching gets so often used in our Indian context of coaching classes and coaching, and really it's not coaching in the sense that you were explaining. So
by the way, it's a worldwide, yeah. It's not only India.
Oh, okay, got it.
So ICF, if you have heard, International Coaching Federation, one of the foundation, I think When we coach people to become coaches, the first session actually goes on really differentiating coaching and other professions. So
Right.
this
Oh,
challenge is worldwide.
got it. Okay, perfect.
Yeah,
So let's now start and dive into feedback, Vivek.
yeah,
Let's talk about, we want to talk about feedback in the Gen Z context. So we'll
yeah,
come to that. But first, very briefly, just by way of you mentioned in the beginning, but let's now briefly touch and go a little deeper to say some benefits of feedback, and then what are some of the barriers of feedback? I guess that's probably the one question that keep on people's mind that okay, I intend to do it, but there is these things that come in my way. Maybe
absolutely.
the
Yeah,
first the benefits, just some
yeah,
basic benefits, and then let's talk about what are the typical barriers that come.
yeah, yeah. And if you're okay, let's also have a feedback type conversation. I think that will be a
Yes,
complete word. Yeah,
sure, of
feedback
course.
type conversations, right? And since I think I'm going to use this platform also to, and whoever is listening to this and watching this, I would encourage all the people manager there or in personal level, whenever you're having this conversation, please make it universal. Please make it a wholesome process. Anytime you want to use this conversation, use it for both positive, negative, and neutral. If you want to acknowledge something, for example, uh, you want to acknowledge, hey, I observe you coming on time. I really appreciate that. I really see that DNA of you keeping the time. I learned from one of my mentor, Nikhil, whatever you appreciate, appreciates.
Uh,
I think that's the awesome benefit of feedback.
really
You're
nice.
telling someone, hey, you have a great handwriting. Hey, I like the way you keep things in place. Hey, I like your present. I really admire your presentation skills. Hey, I like the way you motivate people. Hey, I like the way you carry your team along, right? I think what that does is it makes that person aware, saying, I have this skill. If you know Ikigai or Hedgehog, right?
Yeah.
And I often use example of Sachin Tendulkar.
Yeah.
He's a great batsman. I think he's great batsman to all of us. He himself, it's so easy for him to take a bat and hit that square cut or whatever that is. I think the if you use the Hedgehog model, the gifts, all of us have gifts. But the gifts are the things which we do with ease. It's only outside world recognizes that. And that's one of the best advantage of feedback.
Mm.
A manager or someone who's third party is observing you or someone else. And if you observe someone doing something great, please tell them that. Don't say, all right, it's very easy for you. And it could be anything. It could be singing, it could be music, putting things together, working with people, doing, organizing things, speaking, anything, or technical things, solving problems, singing, anything. Just tell them that. I think it will be reinforced. As a manager, a people manager, I would highly recommend if you want any repetitive behavior in your employee, state that in your feedback. And you will see that automatically having a ripple effect. The employees have a psychological burden now to repeat that since manager once affirmed that.
Mm.
That's a great feedback. That's number one.
Mm.
Number two, I think the one of the good benefit of feedback is people know what not to do. Yeah, typically I also do since a lot of and the organization I work with, since we are a very fast growth. Whenever a new employee joins, they come from that culture, right? It's a critical thing for you to tell them how do you operate, and if you just speak behind their back, they really don't know what is okay here unless until you give them feedback. Again, it's reinforcing, saying what's the expected behavior and what is the correction required, right? Another thing, feedback is never, and that's again, it feels like a classroom, it's never to find faults. It is always to correct. So the equation I'm going to state that is performance equals potential minus interference, right? So it is always to reduce the interference so that they work up to their potential. So don't use feedback to find faults. Don't use feedback to find mistakes. Don't use feedback to tell them why they are not getting raised. Is always a corrective conversation saying what's working well, what they could do better. And let me complete that in the same breath of some of the negative things in some of the organizations when the managers are not having these complete conversations. If they are using feedback only to find faults, there is a psychological connection to feedback. The moment manager says, I want to give feedback, come to my cabin, they know, something wrong is going to happen. And I think from one organization to another organization, they just carry that. Oh, feedback time is this. And whenever things go wrong, the manager says, I want to give you feedback. Come. They never say, hey, come on, hey, I think that function happened well. I just want to share with you what worked well. I want to give you feedback. Yeah. I think that's the tonality. So I'm just going to repeat that. I'm repeating
Yeah.
myself. Dear
No,
managers, if you're watching this video, please complete the feedback loop. It's not only bad, it's for good as well. Balance it out. And I think more for good. I think that's good for you and your team,
right.
since you want your team to perform well.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I really like reinforcing the positive. It's not
Yeah.
about the negative. But so on, just on that, Vivek, just if you're a manager, and again in the context of Gen Z, I am a young person, maybe I'm a young manager as well, and we'll come to in a moment, like companies who have built a good feedback culture. But let's
Yeah.
say you're new in your career, right,
Yeah.
and you're leading a team for the first time, right?
Yeah.
How do you how do you kind of be careful that what needs to be a constructive feedback doesn't become critical feedback, or it doesn't kind of enter that zone where all of a sudden my intent was to do this, but then it's either landing that way. So if I'm a manager, do I just shadow under another experienced manager who's kind of done this? What are the ways in, so that, because otherwise, like you said, it goes from one to the other. It's learned
Yeah.
behavior. It just carries forward, and maybe this manager even 15 years out could be doing the same thing, right?
True, true. That very, very nice, very nice. I think that piece has two, three dimensions, Nikhil, right? I think emotional intelligence plays a big role in the way you give feedback. Your emotional intelligence and also the person's emotional intelligence, right? That's the one piece I think we should be aware. Second is the timing piece. At what time you are giving feedback. Deep down there, the timing and EI also has your intention. You know, they say the smoke and the hen, though you hide it, you can't really hide them. They'll make noise and smoke will come out, right? And the third piece I've seen very good in feedback is really the whole gamut of non-violent communication. Let's go one by one. Let's say, let's go to the conversation when things are going wrong, right? And you want to give a feedback. Now, if you may be emotionally high, maybe project has gone late, you have made enormous loss. What has happened is happened. I think another awareness managers need to have is the time zone piece, right? The past has gone. You can't do anything of the past. Some of the people, they so they blame the past and they project on future and they have a worry about future, what will happen. The only reality of life is what you can do is only in the present. You can plan for the future, but the action has to be in the present. That's the only you have choice, right? That's one. Second, I think whoever is giving feedback has to have a very heightened self-awareness. Saying if this has happened, what's my emotional state in which I'm giving feedback? If your emotional state is not neutral, I would say that's a wrong time to give a feedback. And that's very critical. Third, before giving feedback, check your deep intention. In any context, and I always say in my workshops, before 9, after 5, you are good people. 9 to 5, you're acting in a drama called company, and we all are performing a role. So imagine a drama is happening and a director is giving feedback to an actor saying, that's kind of acting I want. You are playing a role of a hero. I would like you to behave this way. Tomorrow you may be playing a role of a villain. I would like you to play a role this way. Please don't take it personally. So I'm just covering two parts as to,
Sure,
how to
sure.
give feedback and how to receive feedback. So the person who's giving feedback is giving feedback not to the person, is for that role. Hey, I would like you to perform this role this way. That should be your intention. Now, the role could be a team leader, role could be a sweeper, role could be, I don't know, a chef, role could be customer service executive, any role. I think your intention has to be, hey, you're performing this role. This happened. And there are different models, right? The SBI model and the Grow model and whatnot. You can use any of the model or the sandwich model. Check your intention. Intention should be after you have given the feedback, the person should be able to perform the role better. It's not like you're pulling the person down and he's like demotivated, man, my life is gone. And how come this manager is giving me feedback? Right? Check your intention. And the third one, my favorite model, oftener, observation, feelings, needs, request. People who are interested, please Google a whole area of non-violent communication. You can check that model. O is observation. State your observation, what you saw. Express your feelings. Tell which of your needs were not met. And the final part is very critical, the R, request. Just tell them. The simple is, let's say someone is not coming regularly or he's coming late for the meeting. Rather than shouting at them, saying, hey, you are a very irregular person, you are not punctual person, you are this, you are that. Just tell them, hey, whenever I observe you coming late, my need of you coming on time is not met and I'm feeling really not respected. This is a very critical project. Would you be willing to come on time? And I've done a modification. I had a consequence management saying, otherwise I need to give this project to someone else. And is it clear? Do you know what needs to be done? Do you need any support? I'm available for you. Right? And in emotional intelligence, we say rather than getting emotional, communicate your emotion. And that's what the emotional literacy piece is.
Yeah.
Verbalize your emotions. I think that's the critical piece we can do. And I want to connect to Nikhil, what you said is if I'm a new manager,
Yeah.
right? I'm a first time manager. I think these days I've seen people are very well read. So those days are gone when you and me were first time managers saying, oh, there was no training and there's no books and all. I think these days the WhatsApp university is full of all this jnana.
Yeah.
So if
Yeah.
somebody is giving an excuse, I'm a first time manager, I'm like, I'm not able to believe that. All the movies and the shows are full with this.
Yeah.
And I think the upbringing their parents are giving is so fabulous. Like, I don't know, the kind of beating you and me got in school, there's no more beating in the school, right? They're
Yeah.
very polite.
Yeah.
So they're picked up from society as well. So society also, and environment also plays a role in the way you give feedback. Yeah, but let's not go there. Let's stay with this. The emotional intelligence piece, self-awareness piece, and the timing piece and the intention piece.
Right.
Yeah,
So I really like, yeah, you said that you have to have the heightened self-awareness and the
yeah,
intent and the timing of it is so critical that you do it when you're in the neutral state of mind.
yeah,
Otherwise, you can tilt towards
true.
the high emotions could lead you to, naturally be biased in the way you see the situation. Now, Vivek, let's start. We're talking about feedback in the Gen Z context. Here is a generation which is tech savvy. They're on a device. I don't know, X number of hours a day. Their expectations may be frequent feedback. So, what's been your experience? I guess what's the downside if you stick to a traditional model of feedback? I guess if there is one like that, in the sense that you try and give it at the end of a project, or you try and give it at the end of an appraisal cycle, right? But when you're dealing with a Gen Z, they perhaps are becoming more restless. So that's one part of the question. And the second is that the other reality of life now is the hybrid way of working,
Yeah,
and everyone is in some form of hybrid at work or at home. And so, how do you how do you make feedback work? And considering it's all happening over a Zoom call, or it could be happening. So,
yeah,
any
yeah, yeah.
tips there as well? So, two
True,
parts of the
true, true,
question.
true, true.
Yeah,
Yeah. What I'm going to share, some of the viewers or listeners may not agree with my views, but these are very my personal views, right? One is in some context, since I actively spend some time on NGO work as well.
sure.
The way you describe Gen Z, Nikhil, I think it's part of our society.
Yeah,
A part of society is not that. I think then I wouldn't really do Gen Z. I think a lot of people like you and me also spend a lot of time on the WhatsApps and the YouTubes and the Netflix in here, right? So let's talk the whole generation and the way we are working, right? Another attribute I've seen in the Gen Z specifically in here is they prefer to work based on what they are passionate about. The days are gone where they choose to do something since they need money. Yeah. So if it's a wrong recruitment or wrong person on the project, don't invest time in feedback. It's a wrong recruitment. Period. Just get the person who likes the work first. Then the feedback will come. Otherwise, it's like fitting that square peg in the round hole. I think these people are very clear. That generation is gone saying, hey, I want to work. I don't like my boss. I don't like the work, but I need to earn money and I want to work. I think that's very critical. I've got it. Right. Coming to the hybrid, I think that's an easy one to solve.
yeah,
Right. Um, there's another piece or change happening in society where people are coming together for the project work or the gig economy. And again, and a lot of companies, they are bringing people together for a project. People do the project and they're gone. Right. So there's no more long-term relationship. Oh, you have expertise, I have expertise. We've come together, 2-3 months work together. What's the money? You all agree. You do the work and you go. The freelancing is increasing. That also gave rise to the conversation of outcome-driven culture. So rather than you busy, you be effective. In this way, actually, I think the conversations are becoming very, very easy. Since you kind of know which direction you are working and what's the outcome you want from the big project and then broken down into the small project and who's contributing what. So rather than you managing or checking how much time people have worked, if they are giving the outcome and the necessary outcome, I think the project managers or leaders are okay. So like in my case, since I also work from home, my office is in Bangalore, but I operate off Pune. My boss or my supposedly boss, the boss doesn't check with me, Vivek, and what did you do at 9 o'clock and 10 o'clock? And till the time my projects are happening well, my bosses are happy. And the same thing happens in my team. My whole team is hybrid. Yeah, we see at 10 o'clock in the morning and we meet at 5 o'clock. During the day, we don't meet. But in the morning, we decide our outcome. In the evening, we cross check we are there. In hybrid work, what you require is tremendous trust. Now, that you can't replace. If I start doubting people, then. And also, hybrid work requires some flexibility your team will expect since you are working from home. So, there is a work from home and there is a work for home. Because I need to get up, I need to open my door. Like today, there was no water in my place I sit, so I need to manage that. But then I'm working late and finishing things here and there as well. Right? So, outcome driven conversations. Or giving feedback as I'm just communicating back. If you have done recruitment right, if any generation, including Gen Z, if they are working with you for the passion driven, I think they are very open and they would like to listen to you, what they are doing well and what they would like to do, they can do differently. I think they admire anyone in the team and not necessarily senior who brings good skill and knowledge to the people. And then I'm sure you have done a lot of podcasts on the Gen Z earlier. One of the thin line is the age. So the days are gone when they call you sir. The days are gone when they will call, they'll call you sir with your gray hair or size of cabin. I think that's gone. They treat you as a resource. I think, so if you're expecting them, I'm 20 years here and they are 1 year here and I should be called sir, I think please don't expect that. If they are young, if they have done any mistake, I think they are very gracious to accept, yeah, sorry, I did it. They may not respect you for your number of years, but they'll appreciate you. If you do something really nice, they'll come and hug you and they say thank you. If they do any mistake, they'll accept that and they are open for feedback. I've also seen they go beyond their stated time to finish a task. They don't have this timeline piece. They may spend 2 days, sleepless nights just to finish it. They would like to be there. Now, a few of them will jump and I think that MBTI is the personality that continues across generation. Some people would love to talk to you. Some people would like to hug to you. Some people are like separate, and which was in earlier generation as well. I don't see that being a difference. Yeah, that's in summary. So no more hierarchy, direct conversation and passion-driven work culture and a lot of trust. Yeah. And don't tell me what to do. Allow me to do my way. You tell me what's the outcome you want. Here's an outcome.
Yeah,
I think they prefer that space.
So do they, Vivek, again, is there, because of the world in which they are, whether it's an Instagram platform or LinkedIn or whatever else, I mean, they're used to being in a span where they put something and something comes back to them in the next 60 seconds, right? So would there be a sort of frequency? So if I'm a manager managing Gen Z, is it weekly? Is it bi-weekly? Is it daily? Because, or do you agree to this notion that, yeah, frequent is something that they would expect?
About feedback?
Yeah, correct. Yeah, to the depth.
Let me just, that's my reading. That's another side. I just want to add that. What is that world doing to them, right? I think to me, again, this is my biased view, right? To me, the world is happening here in the moment, right? To build a muscle, you need to go to gym. In their world, it happens with the thumb scrolling. They see a video and they see success there. I think a lot of time I have spent with people telling them, hey, that's the reel, that's the edit we have done. And, someone has something, that's his view. I think one needs to spend time on telling them the world is here. I think the world is still, it still requires, Nikhil, 9 months to conceive a baby. Let's get real, right? Well, it's a Gen Z or whichever generation you're talking. That's number one. I have a slight different opinion about that, how timely should be feedback. So I follow the triangle: project management, time, resource, deliverable. Yeah. So D plus, I always tell my team, give me delivery plus, and the C in the center in the triangle, which is communication. For me, the team I work with, it's pretty much daily, since that's how the deliverable we are, since I manage delivery at the way I work. And I think people are okay with that. I don't do micromanagement. So it's not like I'll check with at 1 o'clock and 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock. I don't do that. But I think what I've seen is you've created an open, comfortable space where they can come to you if they have a problem. I think they do come to you. I've also seen, while people typically have an impression about them, they spend a lot of time on WhatsApp and Insta and all and all. But if they get a project which they are passionate about, they'll be weeks together, they don't touch their phone. Maybe they'll put a picture and put on the phone. But the image we have is they are sitting and scrolling. I've not seen that. You can take that for education or theater, for singing or the work. Like we have an excellent tech team, which are Gen Zs, but the kind of work they are churning out is amazing. Yeah. And none of them is like, hey, let me scroll down. So I think the good recruitment or giving them the work which is passion driven, I think is very, very critical. I think they all understand, or part of them understand, saying they need to really work hard to really reach there. It's not scrolling which is not going to give that. And I think same, I would say the people who are creating those reels, they are spending good amount of time in shooting and editing and going there and trying and all and all. They're not busy in somebody's life.
Yeah.
Again, that's my view.
Yeah, no, good point. Yeah, I mean, obviously, you're so correct that when it's something which is their own passion, right? I think it doesn't, it takes away this thing that okay, they should be given feedback. I mean, I think they're consumed by it. They're doing a good job, and I suppose you give feedback as is required. Now, Vivek, you worked with a lot of companies, a lot of clients over your 3 decades of illustrious career. Are there companies that you can think of like who've done a good job of feedback culture, right? And what's gone into it? Like, what are the ingredients? I mean, is it top down, or is it just that like there is a subculture within a larger culture that you see? I suspect it takes a lot of time and effort, but I mean, are there any companies or like can you think of other stories or just any?
Sure. I think that there's a lot, yeah. And I hope this is generic feedback, right? Not with Gen Z
Yeah,
specifically.
correct.
Yeah. Okay. So I think with the advent of coaching, and there's another word of coaching, and there's a nice topic of conversation intelligence. If you read Juliet Glacier, she has done good work in, like we have emotional intelligence, she has done work in conversation intelligence. And she talks of 3 levels of conversation: the level 1 telling, level 2 influencing, and level 3 discovery conversations. And as I do a lot of work in coaching, the one of the term we have arrived at is moving from telling to asking. I think a lot of companies we work with, we also do a lot of work, Nikhil, in creating coaching culture. And I think I can't take names of companies, but
Sure.
the companies are creating a culture saying while you're creating a meeting or conducting a meeting, doing performance appraisals, as a leader, can you move away from telling to asking?
Uh,
The moment you're in a tell mode, indirectly you are taking ownership of giving all the answers. You are in a consultant mode. Indirectly, you're also telling yourself, I know all the answers of your life.
Mm.
And that's so untrue. You can't.
Right.
Like my motivation levels and your motivation level, my life and your life, my parent and your parent, my dog and your dog. You can't solve my problem. And I also use a term called male gynecologist, right? So just visualize a term. There's a lady who's about to give a birth to a baby, and she's going through the labor pain, and there's a male doctor who says, he has delivered 500 babies, and he says, "Ma'am, I exactly know the pain you are going through." And that lady slaps that person. She says, "You have delivered 500 babies. You will be never able to experience the pain I'm going through." Yeah. So I think when it comes to feedback, we are all a male gynecologist.
Yeah.
And I think this is the power of you moving away from telling to asking. So I can tell you, Nikhil, and we just wrapped up one of the intervention yesterday with one of the telecom company in India, is creating the whole piece of culture saying there is a place for telling,
Right.
there is a place for mentoring, and there's a place for asking.
Yeah.
Now, can you be aware? And that's where the Chauraha conversation works, right?
Yeah.
Be on the crossroad. And every time, whenever you are conversing with people, take a pause and ask yourself, in this conversation, what kind of role the situation demands me to play? Should I be a coach? Should I be a consultant? Should I be a mentor? Or should I just listen?
Right.
I think that's the powerful. So there are a lot of companies who are creating this culture and they are very successful.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
So
Sorry, can I add something here?
yes, please go ahead.
Another critical thing, otherwise people will think just by doing a training it will happen. If you are training your managers how to have moving from telling to asking, please also communicate to your downline
Hmm.
of, hey, your managers have undergone training, and next time you go to them and asking for a solution, they may not give you the answer, they'll ask you a few questions. I think doing this both helps.
Yeah.
Otherwise, typically managers, the traditional managers, think if someone is coming to me with a problem, I need to give them an answer. Not true. Yeah.
Yeah, no,
So
that's a
do that
very good
together.
point.
Yeah.
Excellent point. I think that alignment is so very crucial. Otherwise, it happens in one layer of the organization, and
Yeah.
maybe it doesn't. It becomes an isolated kind of in a pocket. Yeah. A couple more questions, Vivek, just as we come to close. One, of course, is there is also the term, and a lot of companies say that we'll move away from feedback to feed forward.
Uh,
Let's understand that a little bit. Perhaps you touched upon it, and I guess one question when you think about from the Gen Z's perspective, right?
mhm.
What are kind of the do's and don'ts? Like if I'm a young Gen Z and here's someone who's trying to give me feedback, what should I keep in mind
Yeah.
from the receiving side? Yeah.
So let's go to the feedback and feed forward. I think I covered that in the Offner model.
Yeah.
Yeah. So request to all the managers who are listening to this video or watching this video, use it. It's a conversation.
Yeah.
So anything you spot happening good, and the analogy came to my mind is, let's say you have a young baby in the house, and the baby takes first step. You do appreciate, wow, the baby took first step. You don't blame when the baby falls down. Oh, you don't blame baby. Hey, what kind of baby is that? Has not universe taught you how to run? Come on, run. No. You do appreciate good things baby saying, or the baby starts saying mama and daddy. You do appreciate that, right? I think same goes with all employees. The moment, I think you need to find excuses to appreciate people, guys. And sorry, I don't want
I
to sound
really
like a
like what
preacher.
I'm gonna
Yeah,
steal that line.
yeah, please, right. And I'm also guilty in my earlier part. I think the moment we are performance driven, we are so glued to, everything should be, hey, you do this and do this. Yeah, but in the hinge of that, how about the things which are going well, right? If you use the Offner model, OFNR, it does cover the feed forward piece. You are requesting, saying, what is that I would like to see, right? If you also take the equation of performance equals potential minus interference, and if you're having a potential oriented conversations, you are saying, hey, I think you can do that, you can try that. Yeah, so that's the piece. Gen Z, your question was Gen Z receiving feedback, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
My request to Gen Z first step is, please check, are you at your passion place? Yeah. If you're not, don't blame your manager. Since, I've seen it takes tremendous force from the manager to push them to do something which they don't like. Now, I may sound biased, but if you have chosen something, yeah, then you should also take responsibility of making it happen. Maybe you are going to work for 3 months and 6 months and whatever it is. Sorry. Maybe you don't like the travel time, you don't like the boss and all. No, that's the given environment, right? We also use that mantra, right? Up, if it is to be, it is up to me.
Me.
Yeah. If things were to happen, you do on your own. Don't blame manager for it. Dear Gen Z, the day you signed on the dotted line appointment letter, there are few things you agreed to. Meaning somebody else will decide your salary. You will get only one t-shirt a day. You will have canteen food. You can't decide the menu. Let's not debate about it. The conversation you should have with your manager, and if you could have proactively, please confirm, number one, what are the few things which are working well, which are in line. Number two, please be open. What are the few things you can do differently so that it contributes to the team? Be open for that. Yeah. If you don't like the company in short span, please don't try to change the company. Don't crib it. The company existed before you took birth, right? So I'm sure people have done some great work. But if you have a great suggestion, yeah, and I think this generation is amazing when it comes to suggestion. Their attitude is very positive. Tell it is a suggestion rather than appearing it's a criticism saying, guys, you guys don't know anything. I know everything. Listen to me that way. Um, Respecting senior is okay. Yeah, it's not that bad. So your body language, your tonality, while you want to call the senior person dude, at times you can respect him. And in local language at home, you call your father a father. Maybe you're brought in by calling father by first name in your home culture. Corporate culture, see if you could call them not sir, but some respect of age. Gray hairs do have some value.
Yeah.
See if it's possible for you, and don't take personally. You're performing a role. Its company's a drama. They are the director. They're
Yeah.
giving you guidance. Just take it for role. Before 9, after 5, we are good people. That's the mantra.
Yeah, no, I really like that again. But you're right. Do not take it personal. I think that's probably just as much applicable to experienced managers as much as perhaps relevant to the Gen Z. So, two final questions. One, Vivek, this I know we could go on. One, of course, is oftentimes we see in large companies because there are layers and layers of, let's say, I mean, either we think about a tech company or let's say manufacturing kind of a company, right? And you got large chunks of people at a certain layer. At what point I mean, is there a duration in which we can say that, look, I have, in good conscience, given feedback to this individual for 3 months, 6 months, and then he or she goes to a PIP. So is there a duration from which we say that as a manager, I work with this individual as a conversation, or, where this feedback sort of sequence is happening, but to no avail. So what has been your experience? Do you find that what should managers keep in mind? I mean, I don't want to say a rule of thumb, but like what has been your way till the time you say that, look, I've had a good conversation or I've tried to have a good conversation with data, with facts, being very balanced about the whole thing. So that's the one. And yes, of course, let's tackle that. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, this, in my mind, this depends on two, three things. Number one, the organization culture. Now, in India, there's a big conglomerate who's a people driven.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or we have a public sector unit. There is no feedback and you can't keep people around.
Yeah,
To me,
correct.
it comes to the affordability you have of retaining employees.
Yeah. Mhm.
I also use a theory, Nikhil, called rocks and eggs. Right. So there was a white rock and there was an egg. So one day, hen comes in and she misguides herself and sits on a rock for 3 days. After 3 days, you don't get anything, you just get a bomb rock. It's only chances she sits on an egg may hatch.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a wrong recruitment. There are some of the teams, and if you take an hospital, if an emergency room and OPD, in emergency room, you can't afford somebody not performing. Like the teams I have had in my corporate career, I used to handle international team. In current as well, the size of the organization I have, I can't have any non-performer. So there is no rule of thumb. For me, performance is every day. Since I'm client-facing team,
Yeah.
operation theater, I can't work on feedback. I'm working on a death and life, right? Airline industry, I can't give you feedback. Hey, by the way, I'm sorry I spilled the coffee. No way, you can't. So it's the affordability you have. I think these days, a lot of companies running on thick budget, thin budget, performance driven. I think you can't afford non-performance, and that's again my view. So it's on if your culture allows, oh, people first, we will try to, I just say you will grow chikus on a mango tree. All the best. I personally don't have that much patience, in my view. But on a human term, it should be partnership. It can't be one way. As a manager, I can't take ownership of your performance. You also have an interest of why you have joined this organization.
Yeah.
If you have a deep intent of, see, I'm always willing to partner.
Yeah.
If you're giving your hand saying, Vivek, I'm trying my level best, it's not helping. Can you support me? I'm there. But don't make me responsible for your performance. Your salary is going in your account, not my account.
Yeah.
I think I would invite people, this generation, as if today, it's 2024. I would invite everybody to take accountability, ownership of their own performance. I think we are equally contributing to growth of this organization. It's like, there's a famous diagram, Nikhil. Oh, thank God the hole is at their end. The people are sitting in a ship. I'm sure you've seen that diagram.
Right.
I think these days, you take any small organization, any small, the grocery shop or the operation theater or airline industry or the company you and me working with. I think non-performance is not accepted very much unless and until the organization says, once you are on my side, you know, you are with us the way you are. So I would say give sufficient time. Please check with people. Ask them, hey, how long do you need it? If I was the manager, I would say, how much time do you need? If it's a wrong recruitment issue, I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah.
We can't
No,
have
so
that.
I think that's a good point that's there, but I think there's also the reality of the external pressure and the competition and the innovation cycles becoming shorter, imitation cycles becoming
Yeah.
shorter, and all of that really just says that like you cannot. There's no luxury of saying, and the economy is we're seeing every part of the world going through a churn. So that's good. One
Sorry,
final,
can I add to here one more?
yeah.
So a lot of
Mhm.
companies actually give exit bonus. The moment
Okay.
they hire, they watch people for a month or two. And if this is not suitable, they pay the money. Please leave my company. So if you're looking for the feedback for the new recruit, please take the call in first, second month. Don't hope for the best saying things will change. Doesn't happen that way.
Yeah. No,
The
very.
cost is very high at the end.
Yeah, because I think by the time you invest the time and bandwidth
Yeah.
to upskill them and all the resources that go behind, right? It's 6, 8 months. I mean, there are lots of figures or what,
Yeah.
and then you find out. Then there's obviously a issue there. One final question, Vivek. One, of course, is as a way to close out. Any sort of final words of advice? If I'm a manager, I have a young Gen Z or a group of Gen Zs in my team. What are just some of the do's and don'ts for me to just keep in mind as it relates to feedback? So I could be a new manager, I could be an experienced manager, but you've done and seen feedback so much, right? So what are
Yeah.
just some sort of final, words of action or words of wisdom to say, okay, do's and don'ts?
Yeah. I'll share what has worked for me since I deal with Gen
Sure.
Z also. Um, Number one, if possible, remove this word from your vocabulary. Yeah. See them as a normal. Don't call them Gen Z. Since a lot of bias comes with that. A lot of literature written out there who they are. I think they are not. Yeah. Number two, they are good people. Like you and me. They're very good people. Yeah. Number three, see potential in them. They're very open to learn. Give them a task. Number four, they are smart. Maybe smarter than you.
Yes. No
See if you
doubt.
could match their pace in the language, in the jokes, in the uh, in everything they do. They have a different way of doing. Maybe they may not shave, they may dress differently, they may use different slangs, they have a different value system, their confidence levels are different, they are born and brought up differently. Our value system and their value system is very different. If you keep all your biases separate, just focus on performance, you will enjoy their company. Just be one with them. I think that has worked phenomenally with me. Like, I have a Gen Z kid, and plus I have a Gen Z team member. So my kids are actually my mentors, saying, "Hey, Dad, that's how you need to do," and I'm really happy my kids feel comfortable teaching that to me.
Yeah.
I think that's my thing. I think they're good people, very good people, and it's a joy to work with them. Actually, you feel younger and powerful when you go to their level and work. They give you tons of energy.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No, absolutely. I think Vivek, that's so well said. I think as a parent, I can totally relate. Every day, my son teaches me things, whether it's technology, and you really just get a fresh perspective. I think
yeah,
you have to see them, and I really like also that why do we distinguish every generation? I guess if the generation experts have given names that they've been existed, right? So
yeah,
why make I think that we kind of preempt ourselves to say that okay, because he's he or she, this generation, he or she'll be like this. But fantastic. This has been very, very good. I hope that every single one of our, young Gen Zs, whether they're entering the workforce or they're already there, can take some valuable tips on some do's and don'ts, how does feedback work. Feedback doesn't have to, what I took away, Vivek, from the conversation, doesn't have to be very onerous as it's kind of sometimes made out to be,
yeah,
and it's at the fundamental, can we create a trusting working relationship? And as you really pointed out multiple times, it's about trying to look at the good, and highlight the good, right?
yeah.
And I like the 9 to 5 kind of an analogy, right? So you're in the workspace, do the very best, and take the feedback, right? And so thank you once again, Vivek. This is,
Oh, my pleasure.
well, one fascinating conversation. I hope all of our Gen Zers and the managers listen to it, and I hope that you have a very pleasant Diwali, a good festive season, and hope that you and I can meet in person very soon. And not
Absolutely, absolutely.
I mean,
I mean,
you're away, but
yeah, yeah.
I think what may be easier is for you to come to Diwali, and maybe that'll work out.
Let's do that. Yeah. I think let's wish everyone very, very happy Diwali. And Nikhil, thank you so much for having me here. It was wonderful me talking on the feedback thing. Some views are mine. I hope everybody likes it, agrees it. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you, and take care. Bye bye.
Yeah. Bye bye. Good night.